The topic that I'm going to address, it was not chosen by me. It was a little challenging, in fact. The topic was suggested by the organizing committee, that is to talk about external actions and their importance. And then I was a little bit uncomfortable, so to speak, because how can I talk about the importance of external actions? How to talk about something that everyone knows it's important? And it's a little frustrating to talk about something that everyone knows. You know, me coming here, talk about something that you know already, it's frustrating for you. It's different from a presentation given by Dr. Walter Leal with so many, interesting and funny stories. And so, however, I chose to talk or to show two cases to you of farms that I follow up on, and two cases I'll use them to show you that although we know how important external actions are, that is not saying that we perform such actions. So the goal here today is to talk you into doing that. That is, convince those that are not convinced yet that they have to take action. And then the subtitle, the following title is that we have to go beyond farm gates. That is, putting together all methods that we have, or those that we have heard of here for the last 2 days. That is the use of kaolin, maybe in the future a killing myrtle tree, or biotechnology, and to control diaphragm. So maybe we just have attention to what's external and we forget what's going on within farm gates. And that's what I'm going to be talking to you about too. So there is a sequence of images here. They're not new to those related to production of citrus. We know that there is an irregular distribution of diseased plants. Some farms have more diseased plants, some farms have fewer diseased plants, and you know that. And I'm showing you that by means of images, and images are from Brazil. This is not for Pierce. This is not Mocklin. That is 100 kilometers away from here. And we know that we have local areas with more plants affected and some local areas with fewer plants affected. That is pictures that show also eradication. It's easy for us to see that effect. But now, if we go to areas where we have no eradication, they're going to have more diseased plants, right? The distribution of plants then in groves that are diseased is irregular. This is the distribution is more evident when we look at aerial images. And that is due, you all know, we saw in previous presentations by Professor João Lopes and Renato and others that came before me, and that is due to the moving of adult diaphragm citrate vectors. So due to the spread of the bacteria associated to HLB, that's why we have this irregular distribution. That's nothing new. So what is the implication of that then? Because that's what's important, and I'm going to highlight two topics here related to that. First off is you have to have bearing grows and understand how the dissemination, the spread of Diaphorina adults take place, so we can have a better control of the vector. And in bearing groves, fruit-bearing groves, well, if we have more infection present due to this movement of the vector, then they're going to lose part of their production, regardless of their eradicating plants or not. Diseased plants need or lose will cause a loss in production. If they eradicate plants, then the loss is even higher in the short term. So regardless of the strategy of eradication of trees, infections will cause production loss, and besides, quality loss. we work for fresh fruit or for processing, we still have loss in quality. And second, we have to replant groves. And that is a challenge because some places in Mexico and Florida, they have the same problem. How do you replant a grove in a citriculture that is long term? That is possible because you can replant groves, and so you can then start having fruit-bearing groves again. So the spread of the bacteria by the vector implies a difficulty in keeping bearing groves and also replanting groves. The first case we're going to see, it's a farm, all planted in 2013, 395,000 plants, applications of insecticides 2 to 4 times a month, aerial application systemic or via tractor terrestrial with the contact insecticide. Here we have the plots on the farm. Here around as a border, there's no other farm with commercial citrus groves around. So this farm lost so far, until April this year, 13.4% of plants. 13%. That is not little. If we think of plants turning 5 years of age, we're talking about what? 3% of plants a year of loss. Okay. So the farm has lost from 2 to 4.5% plants a year, and only this year 3.5 so far to April. We still have some months to go, and we have seen symptoms. They're very evident. Here we have the representation of how much each plot. There's a total of 30 plots. The plot that lost the least was 8%. Some was between 8 and 15%, most, but some plots lost many more plants. What plots were there? Well, think of in this case here, what plots you think lost the most plants? If you get it right, then you're going to have free coffee during coffee break, and you can even drink orange juice. So those are the plots that lost the most plants. They're all border. Yeah, very good. Okay, you can have coffee during coffee break, but why those plots were more affected than others also in the border rows with not the same loss of plants? In 2015, this farm was implemented in 2015. The growers, they moved groups around the farm, and they started to look for sources of inoculum around the farm in a radius of 3 kilometers around. They were here represented in this orange circle. And they started to see plants that were diseased, the citrus plants. And then let's see what we found around this farm. And this is it. You don't have to pay attention to figures in terms of the incidence of the disease until April this year, but pay attention rather to what was found in terms of plants that are non-commercial within and outside the farm gates. So in this wood area, more than 1,200 plants were found of orange and lemon within the farm. Here in this wood area, other 600 plants. This is like a total of what? 2,000 plants within the farm that started to be eradicated in 2015. That is, so far, they were sources of inoculum, and they were responsible for the infection on this farm. You see that the closer to those points here, more plants were lost, and the plots with higher incidence. Some plants were found here in this wood area, other plants were found here. Besides, in this dirt road here for sugarcane, 1 kilometer away or even closer. And this is a place where we have like country homes. And more than 200 plants were found there, and they're still there because people go there in the weekend, and they need lemon for the caipirinha, our typical drink, right? So that is the negotiation issue involved. So anyhow, what was the source of inoculum? Well, those plants that were non-commercial, that were within or close to the farm or to the grove. How many of you have plants close to your plots? Well, you can start looking tomorrow. Another case, and here's a much closer reality to most of growers in the state of Sao Paulo and Paraná. I'm including Paraná here too, because the case that I showed before is a farm that is really large. Of course, there are larger farms, but it's within the group of farms that are the largest in the states. Now, it's an average size farm. And fortunately, we found this area of an average size citrus area or farm, and we could see this reality here because they have tens of thousands trees. It's large, but it's considered to be average size. And you see, or rather, mid-size, and it was a farm that was inherited. The great grandfather shared the land with their, kids, and they would sell and buy properties. So we have different size and shape of plots with plantings one after the other. And but they never replant the whole area, all of it, at once. So we have citrus coming from different owners and put together. So it's a much more it's a reality that's much closer to what the citrus culture in general is. So we're working on those two plots for 2 years, and they do not eradicate plants, which is also more representative of the reality here in our citrus culture in terms of number of farms, okay? So, more details for the two plots. You see that this first one is surrounded by other plots of the same owner. This one as well, surrounded by older plots or same age, same owner. But here we have a border with a different owner. So there's no eradication in those areas. In this plot one, we have 6,800 plants with the control of vector by spraying of borders every week. One, in general, for the general property, 1 or 2 sprayings a month. And we have yellow sticky cards used also. And we have found 86 adults since March 2017. 43% of them with the bacteria. So you see the distribution of adults in this plot. Very clearly, what is the main effect or result when we interpret that? The areas that are the neighboring grows for the same grower are serving as a source of inoculum for this plot 1, because this plot 1 is surrounded by plots of the same owner, where we have the entrance of the insect to this plot from those different areas. So we're talking about one plot within one farm. Second case, time's up. I have here plot 2, 9,000 plants, same control. Let's see the distribution of adults captured in traps. And what we have here is this. Of course, there is this effect of this neighboring area that belongs to a different owner, but also we have the effect of surrounding plots that have control of the vector that is not as intense as the other one. So the control adopted in older plots is less frequent than in this case. So what average represent? Here, 0.13 adults per trap, and then the other one, 0.11. So the first area that I showed you of 325,000 plants with an average of adults detected by trap is 0.02. In those two plots, plot 1, 0.11, plot 2, 0.16. That is 5 to 8 times larger. So we have to intensify control for this disease. How? There's no way not to see or not to know where the vector moves to, how it moves. And it's impressive to see that some citrus growers do not use yellow sticky cards yet. We have to go beyond farm gates to control the disease within farm gates. And that's and also we have to go beyond the plots to control the disease within the plot. I'm sorry I went beyond my time, and so thank you very much for having me and for your attention.